Uh, the rankings are out. Georgia, no surprise, sitting at 1. Ohio State 2. Michigan 3. TCU 4. Tennessee, Oregon rounded out with the top 6. We all watched it go down. Biggest thought you had before we go into the weeds of how it landed on you when you watched the release from 25 up from UW to Georgia? What was it? Clint, I'll start with you. We'll go around the horn and we'll keep it moving all night.
Yeah, it's an easy one for me, guys. I think moving forward, why schedule big game non-con opponents? Why schedule marquee games early in the year? Why schedule non-conference opponents that are top 10 opponents that are blue bloods? Why? Right? I mean, that to me, that's it. Oregon's getting penalized for it. And not just that they lost, but the fact that they lost 49-3 to a Georgia team that that was rocking and rolling, coming off a national championship, and Dan Lanning was just trying to get his feet wet in Eugene. Nobody wants to talk about that. Everybody keeps, every time I turn the TV on and the ranking comes out, when it gets to Oregon, it's 49-3 versus Georgia. And so my big take is, why do that? Because you're looking, Ohio State is proving that there's no need to do it. If you're a big blue blood, a household brand in America, which I think Oregon is. I think Oregon and USC, both out of the Pac-12, are those teams. You can argue others, Yogi. I'm sure you feel a little bit differently being out there. But there's just, to me, it's moving forward. If I were in charge of scheduling for a blue blood, for a big time top 10, top 15 football team year in, year out, there's no interest in adding big time marquee games to my schedule moving forward. I'll play out my contracts that I've got in place right now. Let's rock and roll. But when that's said and done, there ain't no need in it. And that's only going to be more true, guys, when they expand the playoffs.
Okay, we'll get into that later. George?
I agree with Clint, but from a different perspective. You know, they say crime doesn't pay. You know how they used to say that in them old shows. Big game hunting early in the season, that don't really pay either. Ohio State, to Clint's point, I'm just going on the opposite side of the coin. They scheduled number 5. Well, they scheduled Notre Dame, and Notre Dame came in 5. These schedules are done years in advance. They played Notre Dame, lost their best player for the first 6 or 7 weeks in Smith and Jigba in that game. Could have happened in any game, but they lost him in that game. Then they messed around and got on the barroom floor with another top 5 team that you had to basically strangle them and choke them out to get out of there. And then that team comes apart later, and you get no credit for them anyway. Marshall comes in and beats Notre Dame a month later in Notre Dame with ease. So it didn't even really merit Ohio State loading up. It was just fun for the fans to see, but for the program, what was the payoff? Michigan allegedly got out of a game with UCLA. I've been told that over and over and over this fall.
That's true.
And it paid because they're sitting right there, and they're sitting one seat next to Ohio State. And Ohio State went out on that limb and did a dance with Notre Dame. They played the same Big Ten schedule Michigan's going to play. Michigan they just haven't been put on the barroom floor. All knockouts. You know, and they're still coming into their own, but all knockout. Big game hunting doesn't pay anymore. It did for the BCS when the little smoke-filled room was going to put 2 teams in there, and I got to go find an elephant, and a rhino, and I'm going to lose some ribs and a pint of blood doing it. But at least when I show up here on Judgment Day, I can show all these heads on the wall. Oh, hell, now you don't have that. It just does not pay to go big game hunting. And imagine if Oregon didn't go down to Atlanta and play Georgia. Imagine if Oregon dialed up San Jose State, beat the hell out of San Jose. They're undefeated. Or if Oregon called Indiana, hey, you guys want to dance a little bit? Knock them out. They're undefeated. They start the season, put their feet on the ground when the season starts, walk right into a wood chipper and got rolled. And then it took them forever to come back. Now they did, but did that game pay? That game didn't pay for them. It's fun for the fans. It's fun for TV.
Gee,
if I'm a
coach, you look at like LSU, and I know that game didn't mean much when it happened, but when LSU scheduled Florida State, that was supposed to be a marquee game, right? Look at Utah and Florida. Like Utah right now, if they'd have went and scheduled a cupcake, they'd be sitting with one loss, and they're still in the contention for the Pac-12, I believe. You correct me if I'm wrong in any of these Pac-12 deals, but they would be sitting a lot higher in these rankings than 13 right now if they wouldn't have lost to Florida. So we can go up and down this list right here. And if a team capitalized because they went big game hunting like you're talking about, it's because they slipped somewhere else, right? Yeah. Then you can say, okay, well, I needed that. But I mean, I just don't see the advantage and the reward in scheduling big non-conference opponents. I don't care if it's at the beginning or the end of the year. I just don't see how teams are benefiting from it at all whatsoever. And I don't know why they do it moving forward.
Here's what scares me, though, is now that Texas is going into the SEC, I keep looking forward to a Texas A&M. Are they going to get back to their rivalry? Now with everything we're saying, maybe those two ADs just assume pass each other on the street. Why would we get in the ring together? Like why? You should. I think you should. And Joel Klatt had something interesting. One of Yogi's partners there at Fox. He said, now that it goes to 12, obviously the road widens. You don't have to do this. Is the last year we're going to talk about all this comparative stuff, because really 2-loss teams are going to be in it. A 3-loss team is going to be in the playoffs when it widens to 12. Joel Klatt said, if you were a playoff team or a conference champ or a conference runner-up, just like in the NFL, the following year, you should play an upper-level schedule. You should. And then it doesn't really matter what Indiana and Rutgers do. They should play some teams to get themselves back up. But all these teams sit in the top 15, top 20. Klatt proposes they do take on a heavier slate. You should go on the road early in the season. You should go play some heavyweight games. It's on his podcast. If you guys get a chance to check that out. I thought it was interesting, but it doesn't pay this year. It doesn't pay in this format. Maybe that 12-team format, they can bulk up the rules a bit if they want to.
So let's just a couple names: Tennessee Martin, Arkansas State, Toledo, Colorado State, Hawaii, UConn, Tarleton. I don't even know who Tarleton is.
It's Tarleton, but
Tarleton.
Yeah, you got it.
There you go.
Big rodeo school, bro.
Amazing. Good for them. But they're on somebody's slate that's ranked in the top 10. And, it's a fair point. I think what is interesting in college athletics is, like, if you look at the last couple of years, even pre-COVID, you've had this attendance decline. People are like, we need big games. We need people to come. We need people to come, because even the Alabamas of the world we're dropping. Now, it'll be interesting to see what ADs say in making these deals. I don't think anybody's going to do deals that are like 10 years down the line. I think, to Joel and George's point, it'll be like, hey, if we're good, let's go play. Like, I think they should redo bowl games in that regard. I think it should almost be like a draft of like, hey, what matchups do we want to go see, making intriguing, versus like these conferences that are locked 3 versus 4 from respective leagues.